Hey guys, it's WCCC here, aka YCC May 7. You're probably watching this because I might have linked on a Machinecraft guide or other a public resource related to the game. I'm kind of juggling my hobby project, Hatchet, and Machinecraft at the moment, so the ratio's a bit hectic. We are recording at a conservative 12 feet or frames per second right now. And I thought I would just record a bit of sitting down and making something. And no, we're not making a tank. Let me just say outright. We might have a hypocrite episode later, but the main point right now is that we're just going to be building, I believe, what is a turbine based sort of airship. And I want to talk about a lot of things that you can convey really well with the visual medium, through video, that you cannot convey through a text guide quite as well. And a text guide's a lot of work, even if you can do that. So I think this is actually the better option. So I'm actually singing the game at 12 feet per second due to the side effect of fraps here. I'm amazed my outdated frap support scenery because I'm too lazy to update it. But yeah, in any case, we have a basic color palette right here. The point of this is to store core materials: dark gray, kind of dark gray, medium gray, kind of light gray, translucent black, a space compression piston, which, to review briefly, is two vents of neutral set to the length you want to compress space between, and translucent black and merge group. You can tell it's merge group because it's black inside the group view you can access with the number 5. Going back to number 1 form view, we have two pieces of gyroscopic material. These are heavy group, as you can see. Heavy group increases the weight and hence increases the Newtonian reaction, and hence the what I call GRUs, or gyroscopic rotational units per second, yielded by a manual gyroscope. Those are going to be handy later. And we have just like a basic chassis laid out. This has 6 uncolored couplers, and we have some space compression pistons already. And quick review here, what I've set up in advance, and I forgot to get the camera rolling and think about, hey, I wanted to record this. So, pardon my messing up right there. We have a reset pitch, or reset pi as it's currently called, plus 45 pitch, plus 90 pitch, minus 45 pitch, and minus 90 pitch keys. Signed to YUIOP, minus 90, minus 45, 0, 45, 90 in sequence. I do a lot of logical sort of setups like that on my controls for the sake of being able to remember anything straight. So, that being said, we have these set to snapping angle rotators for all the angles just mentioned. This is the right-hand face, so I believe it should be inverted. And the left-hand face is generally where forward makes sense. So in this case, positive values are positive 45, positive 90, etc. We have a space compression piston to compress, and then we have an invisible, manually adjustable rotator with move forward and move backward events. That way you can use W and S to adjust the turbine slowly and precisely, but in a very customizable fashion. You can reset any buttons with any of really the commands, and it'll snap to a preset. These are what I call snap rotation turbines. In fact, I just remembered I totally messed something up. We are actually going to remove all of these events from the turbines on the corners. This is the first mistake I have made. I'm sure there'll be another one. Nobody's perfect, and you don't really remember all the mistakes you even learned from. So, yeah, here we are. Just gonna remove a bit of that, remove a bit of that. And the concept in operation here is we have an odd number of units in height, an odd number of units in length, and that we have turbines placed at 0, and then at matching, in this case, plus 9 and minus 9 offsets. We have a 6 turbine design. 4 of the turbines will exclusively lift upwards, and then the other 2 turbines will be adjustable manually as the way I just described. That way, you have a perfect amount of upward and backward force, so you don't come spinning forward or backward, even though I have built ships that can compensate for that. I want to do this as my original design versus my old medevac, so it's important that we have the corners highly stabilized, and if you want to generate force forward or backward or whatever, use the in-between turbines. That way you don't affect the balance as they're placed at absolute 0, which is, as you can see, the point of center balance along that axis. So yeah, now we're going to paint these couplers. I'm moving a little bit quicker. I don't want to munch up all my file size. So what we want to do with couplers is paint them colors for what you want to match up. And then from there, you want to make sure that the colors are different enough from each other that you can tell them apart. So what I do is I start with 50 red, just red, and then I do 100 red, 0 green, 0 blue, all that jazz. And we start signing these, and then I go 150, and then after that we'll just do 250 to 255. And once we have 250 up to 255, what we're going to do is wrap back around to green value, and then blue value, and then red and green, red and blue, green and blue. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, we're just gonna do a bit of work here. This won't take too long. I'm thinking that with the 12 frames per second what we have here, we'll be able to get enough value to convey what we're doing, because it's not really a very fast-paced building process, while still being able to conserve file size, because I just can't let these massive tank files eat up all my bandwidth uploading and all my hard drive space recording. So now the next step is turbines. Now to make a turbine, we're going to use what are called shafts. Shafts generate force in land or in air, but not in space. In air or in water, but not in space. And they will generate forward motion, but also a certain amount of lift, even when placed level. This may somewhat depend on rotation, but from what I've noticed from boats I've built, they'll have a rudder that pushes forward in 3 points along the bottom. Perfectly symmetrical, so to speak, not unlike our 3 sets of turbines here. And what will happen is that the boat begins to lift out of the water on higher speeds. That's because they are generating lift, even at a perfect 90-degree angle. So what we're going to do is hook up a couple turbines here, and we're going to let these bad boys just spin. Now, I'm not entirely sure as to the dimensions I want to use, so I think we're actually going to go with a 4-piece. Now, let's do a 5-piece for the sake of simplicity. I may convert this to a 4-piece later, but that requires fractional offsets using more couplers, and that's not good for a tutorial, in my opinion. Right. So that is absurdly basic. In fact, we should add just a little bit more material to this. Now, unfortunately, we can't copy and paste blocks in this game, to my knowledge. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll learn that one day. But or maybe they'll add it one day. Hell, who knows? But what we're gonna have to end up doing here is just rebuilding this instead. And yes, you can use a box create by holding Alt and doing click, but I tend to have issues calculating by 1 to 2 blocks almost every time I use that, so I just don't trust it. I trust my human instincts better. In fact, I might need to space out these turbines even more than I have them spaced out now. We might just end up making really simple turbines, once again, for the sake of a tutorial, I'm not sure. Whew. Alright, and I've got set up some control stuff, so we can do that here in just a minute. Right, now we have these faced in such a way that I can build these in empty space, and the natural side effect of that is that, quite frankly, I can work insanity, I can make parts stick together less, and all the other countless advantages you get from couplers. You can also use grouping and merge blocks to reduce part stick and things like that. But I'm not a particular fan of that because there's it's just a lot of work, and I almost never mess with grouping. But later you'll see I'll use grouping for gyroscope material only. Oh hey, we're actually off by exactly 1 unit here. I'm gonna go shove that. Yeah, I think I levels that out. It doesn't matter because it's on couplers, but I just like to keep things nice and tidy so I can precisely measure symmetry and things like that. Okay, and yeah, one last row here. Right, now that we have this little tidbit, the next thing we're going to need is probably a block of spacing so we don't get spaghetti rotor syndrome. Rotors placed too close to certain kinds of blocks, and especially other types of rotors within a certain degree of spacing, will cause the rotors to become tangled. Turbines, rotors, whatever the hell I want to call it. Rotor is the wrong term. A rotor is what you use on a boat to steer and propel forward somewhat. So I just kind of misuse that terms after building like one boat. So pardon me on that bit of mechanical inaccuracy. This is a speed rotator. Nope, this is an angle rotator. I totally screwed up. Right. Yeah, that's just a test event, come to think of it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up these controls I was briefly mentioning. And we're not going to mess with that. But we're going to go to a new page, and we're going to add gear 1, gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, a brake, and probably a hover mode. Hover will have to be precisely measured at some point to almost always get the right amount of force generated to keep the craft level in both height and forward-backward orientation. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign hover to 0, we're going to assign brake to 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and every one of these will be a toggle by checking this checkbox here. This means that with 0 through 5, I can control basically everything I ever need in terms of throttle. Of course, 0 is off to the right, so hover mode is kind of isolated, and hence it feels specialized. That's kind of the method to my bit of madness here. So, yeah, that should mostly cover everything I need. What we're going to do is we're going to plug in all these events, and we're just going to copy and paste these bad boys once we have one. Right, so, assuming how I want 4 gears here, I guess I'll do intervals of 25. And I'm not sure if this thing can even handle all of that force, but we're going to find out, because that's the fun part. In fact, we might want to rescale how much the upward turbines are affected by things like this later, but I am not going to hold it against myself for now. Of course, the brake will just induce a stop event. A stop event will stop any other inactive events. So, unlike 0, if you wanted to stop using 0, 0 would average out the input between 25, let's say, and 0. And then you would have 12 speed instead of 0. And you would still be flying a very little bit, so the brake wouldn't work. Now, we're going to copy with a middle click here. I'm not sure if I ever mentioned that, but it's very important. It's extraordinarily important, as a matter of fact. In fact, we may not have enough space here by exactly 1 block, but we'll see. No, I think we have just enough space here. Right, it's worth noting, if you want to build an aircraft or a boat, it is incredibly important that you do not use heavy material in basically any major sense. You can technically do it, but for boats and aircraft, balance is incredibly important. Aircraft, exponentially more so. You can make a giant boat brick and you can get away with it enough. But if you try to pull the same crap on an aircraft, it's just going to be a disaster. It's worth noting that heavy blocks have 10 mass but 1 buoyancy, I believe. So you are no longer floating with a heavy block as you are with a standard block. And it's worth mentioning on the topic of walkers and robotics. In my experience, you want to minimize weight and use as very little heavy as you can while still reaching your combat threshold. This is seen in my Thor, which has heavy, sort of like thighs and pelvis, but not knees, feet, torso, arms, etc. And that is a very specific threshold I've messed around with to find out it can accept. Now, we're going to add our shafts. Shafts aren't particularly hard to use, really. In fact, they're strangely simple. I'm going to go for about 20 units of, actually, let's go 15 units of length here. We're going to add 45 degrees of twist. I don't believe it particularly matters which way. Width there. I'm not even going to screw with width. Let's go with that at 10. I don't really need width. Actually, let's paint this real quick. I'm going to go paint this some shiny color of fancy metal. Slightly darker. Ooh. Yeah. Right. I'm just going to slap 4 of these on each side. Now, theoretically, we actually have a working aircraft once we've slapped on all these bad boys. But we'll see. It should be interesting at the least. After this, we're going to need to add a weapon systems, and there's a lot of weapons tech I want to talk about, but I may cover that in our hypocrisy episode, which will be about building a tank, or perhaps reviewing my latest tank I've already built. It is a high-tech piece of equipment, even by my standards, I might say. Maybe you'll disagree when we get there, but yeah, we'll just save that for later. Right now, we're focusing on this aircraft. Now, in theory, we have placed the couplers at opposite offsets. We have them all linked up to the proper slots. Oh, actually, what we've done wrong here, and this is important, we have not centered the couplers. we don't center these, it's going to actually throw off the turbines at an angle, and that will really screw up our attempts at flight. Symmetry, balance, and more symmetry are basically the secrets to a good aircraft. I've tried making a couple interesting aircrafts before. Quite frankly, it's hard to do, and it's hard to do effectively, especially to combat standards. It's like building a tank. You can build a basic tank, but to build a tank at a competitive level for combat, in most major senses, you're going to need to fine-tune that technology with a lot of experimentation. Right, so theoretically we won't even turn yet, but oh yeah, these are at 90-degree offsets, oh boy. We also have a 1 block spacing from the couplers. I'm not sure if the coupler thing is even that bad. We'll see. Next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to space these guys out. We use 15 lengths, so we're actually not going to close those guys in, but we are going to rotate these a bit. So the rotational offset on the coupler and the vector offset are pretty simple. You can shove them around an axis. You want to set them on the part that is attaching to the main body and not the main body. And here's why. If you say set, let's say we want to close that 100 gap and we set like 100Z or 100X, I guess. Great, now we have 100X, so it'll, actually I guess minus 100X. So what we're doing is we're bringing the body into the turbine instead of the other way around. But then we go over here, right, and we set 100, do the same thing. Except now the coupler has moved it back 100 units and then forward 100 units across the x-axis. Effectively, you have done nothing now because it has completely neutralized the movement. And that's just kind of like part of the thing. But you can also do rotational offsets, and these are wonky. Personally, as a coder, I loathe the use of a axis instead of a terminology for rotational. Like x-axis, well, that red line technically intersects 2 out of 3 rotational axes. That red line could be seen as part of an arc of green to red or blue to red, which would accordingly be roll and yaw, as I call them anyways. That's what Unreal calls them. So we're going to do about 90, and I think that'll be what we want on actually all of these. Whoops, that is not 90. There's also the coloration issue, so they don't really seem as unique versus the thing. So if you're spacing and talking a lot, you will totally forget. I think it's minus 90 here, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and retest this guy. Nope, totally backwards. Alright, well, I tried. Silver star. Right, now we get to test the fun part. Our next step later will be to install gyroscopes. We're not going to worry about that just yet. Okay, let's see. So we're going to... looks pretty level. Let's test our things while we're on the ground. There's minus 90, 45, 0, 45, 90, other direction. I'm just going to bounce around a little bit because you can't stand on shafts, believe it or not. They really aren't meant for standing. Now, let's do a bit of a manual adjustment. Oh, look at that. That's nice and steady. And we're going to reset that real quick. Nice, nice. Alright, and we'll punch it for gear 1 to start. Now, I appear to be rotating because these all rotate the same direction. This is actually causing a large level of Newtonian reaction. However, we aren't getting spaghetti rotors, and it's slowly finding equilibrium. Oh shit, I lied. I got to put a profanity warning on this now, or some other bit. That was basically inevitable, so I apologize in advance. That's just kind of how I roll. If you're one of the first 10 people to download the original Siege Tank, you should know that better than anyone. Left a little something there, and it was, suffice to say, more than a little inappropriate. Although it was not my intention to leave that in there, might I add. So this is an interesting point. These rotators are rotating probably clockwise in orientation. And they're all doing that. But the problem is, as they're all spinning clockwise, it causes Newtonian reaction. What I mean by Newtonian reaction is this is kind of like the most physics I can actually formally know in this game. Is Newton's third law of motion states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Any Newtonian reaction is what you would call an unintended or secondary action that occurs because you have performed one action. In this case, because if all of the turbines are moving clockwise, or actually in this case counterclockwise, there is the unwanted reaction wherein they will actually cause a similar rotational effect all over the craft, and seeing how they're all moving in the same direction, the effect is outrageously symmetrical. So actually going to have to mess around with this real quick, and I'm not even sure if I can neutralize this. In fact, I should have really accounted for this in my original design. So we might actually be plumb out of ideas here. We'll see. I don't know. I'm maintaining hope for now. I don't know. Let's see what happens. All I have to do is see if I can alternate this even further. But I think I'm good. However, now, because it's moving backwards, the twist might need to be inverted as well to produce the same amount of force. We'll see. I think 45 is pretty unbiased as they come. Alright, there's gear 2, and now we are... Actually, we're rolling over more now than ever. This is interesting. Maybe I don't know what physics as well as I thought. Very, very interesting. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to revert these to the old configuration. And then we are actually going to go out. Actually, no, that's a problem, the twist. So this is kind of like when you use tank wheels and you set one to turn one direction, and the turning is basically the same on both directions. Hence, it's inverse. So left goes forward, right goes back. And what happens is that causes one to suck inward and the other to pull forward, and that causes them both in sync to turn. So we've just produced a rolling motion due to the orientation of these rotators and the lack of inverted twist. By producing backwards force on the right and forwards force on the left, we were causing a direct rolling effect. I'm not sure if twist will ever fix this. I am very inexperienced with contrasting twists, I admit. But hey, that's why we build new machines. We learn a thing. Oh, I'll be damned. Now we're doing literally the complete opposite. Alright, well, always just using profanity in a situation like this, though I will let you know I am incredibly tempted. Tempted more than is fashionable. And I'm all about fashionable, apparently, because I keep saying that. So this is a load of crap, and we're just going to revert this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to revert all of this. We're going to assume I don't know anything about rotators and turbines, because I probably don't. Now, the next step after we do that is actually going to be... we're going to add a lot of anti-gravity units to the top and a bunch of negative anti-gravity units to the bottom. And what that will do is that will actually cause the craft to be incredibly top-heavy and resistant to rolling force. And then later we're going to work out crap like gyroscopes. Let's see here. There we go. Boom. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. Yeah, that's 12 frames per second for you. Alrighty then. Now on the bottom we're going to apply the complete opposite. This is a really cheap trick that works in gravity environments. So not space, chances are, to actually just invoke a lot of bottom-heavy nature that stops rolling force. This exact same trick will actually work on tanks and probably boats. Though I don't really mess with gravity units on boats unless they're in like some ridiculous configuration, because you could end up changing buoyancy in some cases, especially if they're underwater activated, and changing buoyancy can be quite fatal in many cases. Now, we should be more resistant to rocking, but probably not as resistant as we want. And theoretically, as we did minus 100 on the bottom and plus 100 on the exact top, we have not affected balance otherwise, and we have not affected weight and things like that. Come on, baby, you got this. Oh, there we go, mostly. Well, yeah, we're spinning a little bit. We'll figure this out one day. Okay, let's punch this thing onto 5. Whew, holy crap, this thing is fast. Alright. Oh god, I didn't get rid of that. Oh, what have I done? Also, the rotors are kind of spaghettiing at the speeds, it seems. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not even watching them rotate that much. Have I programmed my gears backwards? Okay, so 3 is quicker than 2. 4 is quicker than that. 5 is actually... Oh, interesting. I'm not sure what's happening, but gear 5 is apparently complete overkill and doesn't work. So we've got to wipe the angular snap rotators. So yeah, we have this going on in the corners. This is probably another issue. In theory, if these aren't resistant enough to external force, they can also cause unwanted drift if sufficient force is applied against the joints. So our next step is going to be figuring out what the heck we're doing with the yawing that is occurring as a result of the turbines. This would be something that rotation would actually fix, but it would increase rolling. So we're learning a lot about physics today, I think. Now we just disabled gear 5 because it's buggy as hell. And look at that, we have a nice little flying aircraft. This is actually flying pretty straight even. Very nice. Wow, we're doing about 240. This is pretty speedy craft. Alright, let's go and whoosh. And then we'll disengage gear 4, engage gear 2. It's interesting that we're finding is 2 is more than enough to actually float. Gear 2 is actually almost hovering. Look at this. We are very slowly increasing by about 5 to 6 kilometers an hour in height, which is not a lot relative to holding 240 forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the hover setting, and hover should probably only be used with the eye snap effect. Oh, right, yeah, we just reset that. Okay. Well, so let's try doing 20 for hover now that we know it'll something. And yeah, physics just can't handle all 4 gears. It just gives. I think what we're actually going to have to do next, and this is really ironic seeing how we just set this to 20, we're going to actually set these to 20, 40, 60, 80, and in theory, and more like in hypothesis, because I don't have enough evidence, but I digress. This will be complete crap, but it will be awesome crap. We know 75 works, we know 100 doesn't. 80 almost certainly works. Alright, there we go, we're hauling butt, and punch it forward. This should also theoretically raise our max speed. Look at that, lovely. Yeah, now we're doing about 246, 247 type forward. And then the next thing about this is going to be working out gyroscopic turning, I think. Let's engage hover mode on 0 and snap this thing to I. Man, I love snap turbines. We're actually falling. That's very interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to aim for 23 next. A, because I believe in the number 23. And B, because reason. Do I even need a gear? I mean, a reason. Yeah. But what's cool about this is that actually gear 1 slowly drops on level. So we can actually use gear 1 to slowly descend. And we may add an anti-gravity setting later to increase bottom heaviness selectively when holding shift. This will actually cause a really nice way to descend at a more rapid pace, but only when you're holding shift. So, let's see, engage gear 0 here. Oh, what's happening? I think we're a little too much speed here. Actually, we are arguably hovering. The problem is we had pre-existing force going into hover. So actually, we're going to hit this on gear 3. So it averages the gears, and we disengage gear 3. See if we fall again, or if we're just not quite making... Oh, no. Now we're not making ends meet. So we're just going to set this up to 24 again, and hope that works somehow by some inconceivable miracle. And if that doesn't work, well then, I guess, hover basically hovers, because we're very close to hovering as it is right now. I think hovering is important for just maintaining a stable position. Now, let's talk about gyroscopes, because this is extraordinarily important. Yeah, in fact, let's do ourselves a real quick favor and add those selected AG units. Seeing how we're using light materials, anti-gravity will weigh 1 mass base, so we can actually install these basically in the center without any major consequence. You might be adding too much weight here, it's worth noting as well, but we'll see. Let's see, move down. Right, and now what we're going to do next is we are actually going to do a quick check real quick here. Okay, yeah, we haven't destroyed our hard drive or even close, so I'm feeling good about that. So yeah, now that we have selective descend, what we need to add is gyroscopes. In summary, gyroscopes are pretty simple, actually. You add, well, we're talking about manual gyroscopes. The original term gyroscope comes from basically the same technology applied in a slightly different sense. You have some weird crap going on there. What? We are mysteriously shifted off to one side and away. I'm not sure why that is or isn't actually. That's a fantastic question. I'm going to assume that's some sort of really stupid error. That's like 3/4 of a block off to one side. That's so incredibly petty. Yeah, screw that stuff. I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to do it anyways. We're going to get some speed rotators and we're going to bore into the chassis a little bit. Yeah, in fact, we're going to go straight to the center of the chassis. Center of the chassis. Yes. That's the name of my band. So, there are two options. You could make these invisible, but they will have less mass and hence less GRUs when you make them invisible. So what I do is I keep them visible. I slap on a rotator. I paint it a very dark color so I can tell it apart from miles away. Of course, we're not on paint mode, right? I'm an idiot. And we set turn right to always be positive 100 and turn left to always be negative 100. This is in the case of yaw, which is left to right turning, not in the sense of roll. Obviously, roll is called roll. Yaw is left to right, like shaking your head no. I know it's contradictory. And pitch is up and down, like shaking your head yes. Just remember, pitch goes up and down, like when we're talking about sound. Roll is roll, and yaw is the crap that's left over. So, yeah. Now, well, we've already set these to be heavy, if you remember. So we're going to slap these in, and they're shiny, glowing green units that looks high-tech, or at least just less like garbage we're shoving in the middle of our ship. And then boop, boop. And what we've done is we've done two things. Now we've added turning, and secondly, we've added 9 bodies to our craft. The reason why you want to have heavy gyroscopes, if you can fit it practically, is because really the more space you consume with your gyroscopes, or the amount of gyroscopes you have, you increase the body count. If you exceed 65 bodies, you will not be allowed to join any multiplayer server, regardless of settings. And that's just kind of like one of the things that I do as courtesy. Now, remember how I said I don't really do grouping? Well, we're going to do grouping because I'm a hypocrite. Like I said, we're going to have a hypocrisy episode later, too. Shameless. Right, so we're going to do, a simple way to describe this is that with grouping, heavy material weighs 10 times as much, as we've already said, and hence increases the Newtonian reaction by means of weight, and hence the amount of turning we yield, already set, once again, in review here. And we set group 1 body, heavy type 1, and then heavy type 2s in between. What that does is it causes a level of contrast wherein these are connected by rotators. Rotators, hinges, pistons, I feel like I'm forgetting something here. No, I'm not. Rotators, hinges, and pistons can connect groups, as merge block does, but without the need for direct connection. This will not affect the number of bodies, worth noting in advance. I've done extensive experiments on this. Yeah, as long as you cap off both ends of your gyroscope, it will cause the Newtonian reaction we want. And otherwise, this makes it so red doesn't stick to white, even though it's right up against it, and green doesn't stick to red or white, even though it's right up against it, and etc. So these can spin with a full 1 meter cubed block without the need to, pardon me, I get a bit of hiccups. We get a full 1 meter cubed block and maximum mass without needing to cut it into a pillar shape, and without needing to cause slabbing or other cuts around the body, around it. So in theory, we now have gyroscopic turning, and that took a bit longer to explain it than it really would have taken to build it. But as we can see right here, here's right, years left, and just like that, it is absolute sorcery. If you got questions about this, ask Newton, because I sure as hell didn't write that third law of motion. And yeah, there we go. I have a turning hovercraft. We actually get a bit of a sort of a rolling reaction from that. So we're probably going to do is we're probably actually going to increase our resistance later. But if you look at this, what we have right now, this is an amazing platform. You can slap weapons on this, and this thing is good to go. Like, there is nothing wrong with this platform. It flies, it moves fast, it steers, it has a descend button in case you want to drop down a bit. In fact, we're going to do a bit of that here. Oh, alright, there we go. An intersection alert as I push that button, and I push the wrong button, so I got a little freaked out. And let's go 5, 2, and then we are... Doesn't look like gear 2. Oh wait, there we go. What the hell is happening? Okay, so next one we're actually going to add, and this is something to do with all my craft, eventually, is we're going to add a little bit of lamping. And now, these are kind of these analog control things wherein you have immediate indicators as to what you are doing. We're actually going to line 5 of these in a row and put one on top. We're going to also make them visible so they don't weigh anything. I'm pretty sure they don't weigh anything, but I am probably wrong saying that. Now, I'm going to hook this up to each of the gears, and this is incredibly important. Brake is going to be color 24, or red. Gear 1 is going to be a mild, cutesy little green. Gear 2 is going to be more like a teal. Gear 3 is going to be about a blue. Gear 4 is going to be like a purpley color. And then, oh whoops. We just put this all in one. Oh god, I suck so bad. It's beyond words. Alright, so let's try doing it without being a complete moron. Right, there we go. So green. Whoops. Did I do gear 2 on the west? No, I didn't. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's kind of like pushing the arrow, except it's absolutely not pushing the arrow. Right. Gear 3. There's our blue. And gear 4. Here's our purple. There we go. I would mention the 12 frames per second, but I'm sure you're exceedingly aware of that at the moment. And finally, for hover mode, we're just going to do like this little yellow light, because yellow to me seems like a nice and neutral, just kind of warm color. I don't know, that's just how it affects my psychology personally. Right, now we have that in place. I think we have everything we need to not screw up flying this craft. It's amazing. We do a bit of a control test real quick. Oh, actually, I've got one last thing. Oh, man, I should really just try not sucking so much, but, yeah. There we go. So, neutral, 0. Neutral, well, yeah. I was going to say neutral 0 on all of these, and what that does is that when you stop pushing the button, it turns off. Most things like rotators based on speed and such like that will actually revert to their kind of default state when you don't have an input. Lamps are not included in this group, so absolutely do that. So there's our brake, which apparently just made me jump. There's group 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, we can push all these at once and do absolutely nothing thanks to the brake. And yeah, you'll notice based on that, you'll have this extraordinary little rainbow lined up, and that will be very easy to tell what's on, what's not. You know, I can be like, oh look, here's 4th gear. I guess it's 2 blocks away from red. And if we engage hover mode, there's a yellow light, which is on a completely different axis, and it uses yellow, the only other warm color in our set next to brake. Very identifiable, very readily handy. There we go, there's gear 4. Punch it forward. And boom, there we go. And now we're going to try this hover mode again. Now I can tell what the hell we're doing. Whoops, that's not hover. And, whoops. Let's try not being an idiot. Again, I know, like, I have to keep remembering to do this. It's amazing what an absolute, just thunderous moron I am. Right. Alright. So, there we go. And we just cruise. You know, if I was shooting at someone with a minigun right now, this would be extraordinarily convenient. However, we are getting a little bit of turning again. We'll have to figure out what's going on. I suspect it's slight spaghetti rotor syndrome, causing slight imbalances in the performance of the craft. But I can't prove it, so I'm not going to state it as a fact at this point in time. Right, so let's disengage gear 3 there, engage gear 2. We will very slowly descend. And hold shift, and we're going to descend slightly faster, as you'll notice. And we can even just spin in circles. Actually, another trick I should mention very quickly, you can just be lazy and leave these on 45. Gauge like gear 3, where you would probably be flying. Actually, not on this level we're on. Now we've made like a land boat. Think 4 will get us off the ground? Yeah, there we go. Brilliant. And we're just going to spin. Oh yeah, spinning doesn't work on this craft. It works on my other craft. The idea is that if you generate force forward and you spin in a circle, it will cause you to basically even out. And it will just kind of land in a circle. Totally not true here, as you can tell. That's alright. Right, so now we're going to add weaponry. And weaponry might seem like that you want to tune out at this point. Everyone knows how to make a weapon. This is true. But nobody, well, okay, nobody is obviously the wrong word there. I'm not going to say it's poor word choice. It's just outright wrong. But very few people know how to make a weapon truly effective. And there are a couple of tricks. This can be tricky because we are on an aircraft, which are incredibly precise little monsters. We're going to use a speed-type rotator, mounted on the core in this case because I'm lazy to all hell. In fact, we're going to do slightly better. We're actually going to use a pair of couplers. One on the core, one in front of the core. And we are going to paint these. Let's just be lazy and knowing how I do. Pink is the last set. Pink is going to be camera. Cyan is going to be the gun turret in this case. I'm going to slap this dude on. Use B to shove the block around so it's basically on 0, 0 for X and Z axis. And then we're just going to put the camera wherever the hell we want because this is... Holy crap. Whoa, alright. Okay, this is why you shouldn't be a moron, people. Holy crap. Wow, that was a phenomenally bad choice. Staggeringly, amazingly, abominable choice. Just tremendously, catastrophically terrible. Alright, so, and what we're going to do is this is like my secret formula for cameras, but absolutely useless. I mean, information is objective in this game. It's objective in a lot of things, and this game is certainly one of them. And this is basically the secret to make an amazing little camera. What we're going to do is we're going to place Yaw Rotator piston for compression, tracker, 90-degree bend, and then etc., 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 and you'll see exactly what I'm doing here. I'm just going to do it instead of saying it. This will get very predictable. And the last thing to note is really, as far as parts make, is a yaw or pitch-based hinge. In fact, I think I might have already very slightly screwed this up. Yeah, very slightly. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to place this on top of itself. We're going to remove the old one. We're going to slap a compression piston in there. Now this will compress this 4 blocks total. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, that'll get it nice and inside there. I'm going to slap on another tracker. And we're actually going to set both these trackers to my optics button, which is middle mouse and a toggle key for reference. We're not going to set any amount of offset on these, actually. That's what's amazing. And now, seeing how these are only on when you're looking through the scope, this will maintain aircraft balance when not in use. I cannot emphasize enough how extremely important this is. In fact, we're going to have a lot of trouble balancing the gun out as is. We might have to use a bit of cheating. And we might have to have a selectively activated gun only when we depress the trigger, and likely with spin up time, to maintain accuracy and not waste ammo before we've snapped on target. That being said, we're going to set neutral angles on both the rotator and the hinge. So when not in use, they will reset to exactly 0. And I don't think these actually weigh anything, come to think of it, but I am not taking chances. The last thing we're going to need here is a scope. We're going to slap this on. This is all actually compressed. So the scope will move back 6 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Everything else will be reeled in another 4 blocks upwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this will compensate 100 Y units, the rest of the degree upwards, so it's nice and inside that pink box for the entire camera. This is not only a system that produces virtually zero camera drift, it is incredibly easy to control, it's incredibly precise. It's just easy in every single sense. It is the perfect optical system that I can think of. And you can even mess with the offset later if you're using this on, like, say, a tank. So the optic floats right above the barrel of the tank for extremely easy aiming. That's why I call it floated optic system, and it's amazing. I just kind of use a coupler for the sake of workspace once again. And we're getting a little rushy here, that's for sure. And yeah, so what we're going to do here is we have all this crap lined up, right? And this is basically everything we could ever want inside this nice little scope, but we are actually going to add 100 spring to each of these trackers. And what this does is this increases the aiming speed, but increases the bobbing and reaction you get from its high speed, logically. Theoretically, as we're moving the same amount of mass with more speed, it is theoretically implying that we are applying more energy and momentum to the object to move it, and hence we have more unwanted reactions as a result of more speed. That's kind of one of the ways in which this game cheats you. You generate more energy without spending more energy. It's kind of absurd, but I am not going to complain. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make a non-compressed gun system, and we're going to do something really stupid here. I'm thinking, when we said non-compressed, let's go and color this guy nice and gray. And, what you want to do when you place a tracker, if you haven't noticed, is place the waffled edge back. I'm going to put this in color so you can see what I mean. This is a waffled edge, as I call it. This is the non-waffled edge. Waffled edge back means that it will aim forward, and vice versa. But in many cases, aiming at other angles will cause it to not aim at all. Like, if I place this up or down, this rotator would never move by the tracker's design. Ever, ever, ever. Because it would be like, what the hell am I doing? And I wouldn't blame it for asking such a question, quite frankly. In fact, I've already messed up again. Aha! Show someone that messes up more than me, and I will show you 10 people who don't. Let's just say, for the sake of humorous rhetoric. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to slap on Rotator. We're actually going to color these black to reduce space. You can also use, like, dummy to reduce collision and weight, but dummy will remove functional parts, whereas invisibility will not. That is a very key difference to note. We're looking to use compression tech. Here's our pitch rotator. And we're gonna, you know, actually we're just gonna keep that visible. I don't have any objections to that for whatever reason. We're gonna slap in another piston, and then we are going to slap in one more tracker. Did we set this? No, we didn't set this to cannon. Yeah, let's set this to cannon. Let's do MG. That's my right mouse button. I might actually add like some sort of bomber cannon or something later, but probably not in the course of this tutorial. Whoops, we're not adding that. So what we're going to do next, we're going to add a gun. We're going to add a minigun, and it's going to be a compact minigun, and that's all you really need to know about it. However, this will massively affect the balance if I do this wrong, and I guarantee you I'm about to do it wrong, so bear with me here. We're going to add 1 unit of cannon, and actually we're going to add 2 units of cannon and 2 units of barrel. This is not by any means exceptional yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a yellow coloration for the sake of cool looking bullets. Really just logical looking bullets, I should clarify. MG0, MG1, and we take these compression pistons, line this sucker up. And then, yeah, once we got that guy lined up, we're actually going to do the exact same shenanigans again. Right. Whoops, that's 5. Right, and then that'll give us 8 machine guns. And that is what I would call a high-powered machine gun, or possibly, depending on definition, a standard machine gun. You know, if you built this as a tank gun, I would call it a jackhammer. You know what, let's build a jackhammer. I want to build a jackhammer. I feel like jackhammers today. I love jackhammers. Sorry for my indecisive nature, but that's just the way I roll sometimes. Oh, did I rip the vent off the back? No, I didn't. Okay, I'm just screwing up again. Let's see. So, cannons operate in a cycle of 16 units. I can't believe I forgot to say that until now. So what we're going to do a set of 2, 4, 8, and we're going to go all the way up to 14 following that pattern. 14 obviously is the highest you want to go, because once you hit 16, you have fired the last cannon at the same time as the first cannon, and that's really, really, really redundant. Did I set to 14? Dear God, I did. 12. 10, 8. Doing something extraordinarily wrong here. 2, 0, 4, 6. Alright, there we go. Sort out my bit of shenanigans. And then I'm using the word shenanigans more than I'd like. Alright, so, get rid of these excess cannons we used to just build upon to orient the gun. And a tank gun is made by the combination of one unassigned barrel, one cannon, and equal amount of barrel to cannon. If you have less barrel than a cannon, you have a mortar, which has high arc and high AoE, and extreme damage in exchange for being a piece of crap in most conceivable senses. And then finally, we have the standard cannon, machine gun, whatever you want to call it, that shoots a straight bullet. And those are just really simple. And you assign those. If you set them to fire all at once, it's basically a shotgun. And in fact, if you set 2 cannon events on one cannon, it will make it semi-automatic instead of fully automatic. That being said, let's check out a jackhammer, because I love jackhammers. If you ever make one of these, you are going to know why it's called a jackhammer. It is extraordinarily loud and extraordinarily deadly. That's all you need to know about it. Alright, we're just going to punch our turbines forward here. Wow, this is 2 inside of the machine. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. You know, this compact gun actually doesn't mess with my balance that much. It's still a pretty straight flying craft all in all. I just shove my turbines around. There we go, we got balance. That balances out the gun right there thanks to the power of manual adjustment. That's why I love snap turbines. Speaking of which, I think the turbines are revolting in the form of spaghetti. This gun is so extraordinarily loud. You might even be able to hear that over my speakers from echo. Well, yeah. Jackhammers are extraordinarily deadly. They're just moronically stupid deadly, doing very high precision damage to parts at very medium to medium long range. They work well close range as well, and they work well in shot configurations even, but not by a lot. I'm just gonna snap that and descend here. And yeah, that is basically a flying aircraft using turbines and a working gun. You can mess with the gun a lot. You know, you can see we have 2 offset issues with the gun right now. In fact, you know, let's go and resolve those and fix our camera issues just for the sake of making an okay craft in the sake of this video. So yeah, stop compensating by 100 units because we don't want this to actually be inside the craft. This is usually not the case. I think I was thinking of not using one of these pistons with this, so I made that little bit of a mistake. And otherwise, we're going to have to compress the gun another unit. Yeah, we just actually just break this, shove this off, slap in this guy, and we're going to just drop in another piston, and then we have kind of elevation issues. We're going to just increase this by 100Y. And you could technically add a slight offset in some of the turbines to compensate for the gun weight or whatever. Because this gun is extraordinarily heavy. It is, I think it's actually 16 attacks with 16 units of barrel. So it is 32 blocks weight on a very fine point. Which is not very desirable in most senses. And yeah, you know, the beautiful thing about this design right here is that you can go backwards, you can go backwards and forwards a little bit, you can go neutral, upwards, you can just punch it forward. And you can aim with this optic, and seeing how the optic is selectively activated, the balance issues are highly minimal. course, we don't have a long barrel in this for the sake of balance, so we can't even hit anything at this range. Let's go a bit of a veering around. Whoops, actually, let's put this guy in reverse. I believe I may have my camera inverted in some sense. We'll see. And, you know, let's lower our gear from probably 5 to 3 and then engage descend. There we go, now we're kind of getting in range. Another thing I like to do with my bullets is make every 4th or 8th shot a red round, so it's kind of like a tracer. It's not extraordinarily helpful, but it's better than nothing. And this is about as far as we're going to get, I think, in this crappy craft. Oh, actually, we're still doing forward. Or no, we're totally doing backward. We're just driving forward. Whoosh. Right, let's see, get within a practical range here. The problem is this craft is so extraordinarily fast, you can just fly out of range of targets pretty quickly. That is also an advantage. I believe the gun's inheriting parent velocity, so we're going to have to compensate a bit here. I think we just got another small volley of hits. No, we missed every shot. Yeah, actually the gravity's totally messing with these rounds. This is a terrible aircraft gun. You probably want to use cannons and long barrels for maximum accuracy, or possibly some other degree for for the sake of mortars for the sake of AOE, so you can afford to miss. But you'll have to drop those from above almost certainly. You won't get crap velocity with mortars unless you make them really big and hence really imbalanced. Well, yeah, I missed basically every single shot. But if you want to work out how to aim the system, it's not a wavering system. You know, it aims pretty well. It shoots straight, even if that definition of straight is questionable. In fact, I might want to calibrate the gun later by setting an offset on the rotators. But you can do that on your own time, I think. It's not that hard. You set the neutral event or the gun event or whatever you're doing to like 10, would be like 10 degrees offset relative to camera position. And you can get it to where it aims about center point. Though our problem is in this case we're moving so fast with parent velocity. Once again, I'll say that. And yeah, that's a really crappy VTOL aircraft thing. I don't even know what to call it. But thanks for tuning in. I hope you found this informative, and hopefully we'll do another episode on the Donner Cannon 100. Until next time, WCCC signing out. Well, it turns out we used even less file size than anticipated, so I thought I'd just review after throwing on a couple real minigun bits. And I would do like a Flight of the Bumblebees or whatever. But yeah, that's basically that in summary. If I was actually at an effective range, I could probably do a hell of a lot more damage. But just conclude the power of the minigun and have a good one.